Hey everybody, Wes with Fundamental Games. I'm going to show you a tabletop simulator overview of AracKhan Wars. So I won't do an entire how to play, but just a brief overview in this 5 minutes so you can get an idea of what this game's all about. AracKhan Wars is a game for 2 players. There are some rules adjustments that may come to allow for maybe solo play or team play, but as it is, you're just going to be leading a faction, casting spells, placing cards, and trying to thwart your opponent's plans while pursuing your own. The game comes with quite a few cards, 4 separate decks of different colors, and tokens and a battle mat. So let's talk about 5 aspects of the game. First off, the battle mat. The battle mat is your play area where cards must be played. Unlike most card games where you have your own zone, you guys are sharing a zone. Each player will be playing cards onto the battle mat adjacent to one another. So if red plays here on their turn, that means blue must play adjacent to these cards somehow, way, or form, and they play them upside down. So they might play them side by side, or let's try to tag team this card here. That's how play starts out. On this battle mat, play will continue throughout the game, but some cards will be removed due to combat and spells and other scenarios that could happen. So that is the first aspect of the game. Second aspect of how the cards interact. So for example, on the second or on this turn of play, if red played first, they would flip over their cards, and if they had actions, they could use them, or if they wanted to combat something that was already face up, they could. In this case, they can't. But each card has their own special abilities, combat and defense, and in some cases they have special actions such as flight or special combat rules. Once red has taken their turn with their cards, blue would do the same. And then blue, for example, could choose to attack a card that's adjacent. So this nasty roach that has 1 attack and 0 defense, this bird here could attack it, except that it has no combat value. These birds have a combat of 0. They're more used to help pump up the defense, these nihilistic penguins. So if no combat took place and the cards remained, then play would continue, and then order would reverse. So maybe blue would want to play there and there, for example, and red might play here and here. Now they're playing with cards from their hand. They're not randomly drawing from the top of their deck. They've got 7 cards in their hand and get to choose where to place their cards. So there's strategy involved there. And then again, they would go through and do their different rules of play. I didn't shuffle these decks, so not a good example there. But play would continue. So I guess the third thing I'll share with you is the card types. There are spells that would be played in the astral plane. There are spells that could be played on the board, again played upside down and then resolved when they flip over. And then of course there are buildings or fortresses, landscapes, locations. They can't attack, they can only defend, but they can really boost adjacent allies. And then of course creatures that have combat powers or special abilities like perforation or initiative. So that will all take place in the game. And characters will get these tokens on them that will flip over when they use their attacks. They can only attack 1 opponent a turn unless something says otherwise. So you go different card types. Fourth thing is about how combat works. So again, let's do another example. If this card was adjacent to this card, the attack value on the left-hand side of this blue card, that is 3, would have to be higher than the defense card of this card, which is a 1 on the shield on the right. So as long as the attack value is higher, the creature doesn't really counterattack. They would just go to the discard pile and be defeated. But if multiple cards were around the same creature, so for example, if this creature and this creature were around this ice golem and red was attacking, they'd have attack of 2 and attack of 1, not enough to defeat this attack of 3. They would actually have had to have another creature here with an attack power. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against the 3. Then they could defeat this creature. But that would use up all of their actions. So those creatures wouldn't be able to attack anybody else. It would flip over their token. At the end of the turn, it would flip back. So that's kind of a really brief overview of how combat works. Some creatures do have special abilities, like perforation would mean that they could attack sequentially down a row, or Omni Strike could mean they could attack any creatures adjacent on any side. And then there's other abilities like initiative and flight and things like that. Movement means they can move around the board. Most cards are stationary, so once this card is played, it can never move unless you have a special ability like movement or flight. And then the last thing I wanted to share about this game was scoring. So it's very different from other games where you have life points or health points and you're trying to defeat your opponent by whittling down their life. That is not the objective of this game. What happens is every time 2 cards are played by each player, the round progresses. And once you get to 9 rounds, whatever cards are left on the table at the end of that 9th round, the players will add up for their scores. So if this were the end of game state, red would have 3, 6, 7 points total, and blue would have 10, 13. Well, the spell would go away because spells never stay. So they might have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 24 points. So 24 against 7 would be a definite victory for blue. Again, the board state would not end up like this because you'd have much more going on from round to round to round. But just giving you an idea of what would happen at the end of the game, how you determine a winner is what's left on the board. So what happens from turn to turn may not be as important as when you play your highest point value cards and how you position your special abilities. So very, very different from other games I've played, whether it's Magic the Gathering or Keyforge or Pokemon or any of those card games. This game is much different, has some amazing artwork. It just kind of 3-dimensionalizes its way out of the art frame, so I think that's a nice touch. And even the back of the cards have a 3D-esque look to them. Doesn't do justice here on digital, but if you see them in paper, it really does feel like 3D cards. So there you have it, just a brief overview of AracKhan Wars. It's coming to Kickstarter, I believe, next week, and hoping it does well. I think they have almost 1,500 followers on their Kickstarter launch page, and they've been doing lots of promotion of it in their home country and on digital media and YouTube, and you name it. I'm starting to see it pop up more and more. So have a look at it when it launches. Just happy to be able to share it with you on Tabletop Simulator. And look at some of that art, really cool art going on in here. The fear. Fire lightning. Okay, I've rambled long enough. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.